Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to double check my microphone and make sure it's on the highest setting. Yes, wonderful. And thank you all for your support. I was able to, I got a new laptop about a month and a half ago, so it's the picture is clearer. And there used to be a little bit of a buzzing sound or a humming sound because the my 2017 MacBook was had a fan problem. Apparently, they were not built well. So, thank you, Danielle. That's very sweet of you. They were not built well, so the fan was always coming on, and so when I would go live on YouTube, there was a little bit of a hissing sound. So I appreciate you guys' support. It really enables me to keep up leveling myself, and I'm very, very appreciative to all of you. I haven't checked in in a while. I've been in Florida, and now I just got back to LA about 4 or 5 days ago. Thank you, Nancy, for that super chat. I really appreciate you. But there's a lot going on in terms of the pot being stirred and in terms of things really accelerating. Things are very much accelerating on the planet right now, and we're gonna get into that today. The only thing that I ask, okay, the only thing that I ask is that you don't hang your hat on anything that I say. I want this video or this message to be suggestive. I want you to think of this as a suggestion. It's not anything that you have to hang your hat on or anything that you have to run with. Don't ever do anything just because there's a suggestion being made. Ultimately, you are your own student and your own master. And I've been showing up on Instagram Lives every morning. It's kind of like the Feel Good Morning Show. But I've decided to kind of shift gears a little bit and show up for you guys on YouTube a little more. So, yes. Firstly, I want to talk about how right now you might be feeling like you're in a quick rinse or a super fast express quick wash in your washing machine, and everything is moving very fast. It's like a quick cycle, a quick spin. And the main reason that's happening is because we're all being confronted with our shadow everywhere we look. We are all being pushed in a way by our higher self or the freer version of who we are. I've been calling it that a lot, the freer version of who you are. We've been kind of pushed to make decisions or to take action around vanquishing our fears, around overcoming our inner obstacles, and being bold and courageous enough and brave enough to jump and trust that we have a parachute. Trust that we actually don't need a parachute because we have wings. So everything is kind of rapidly shifting in our personal lives, and I believe that that's a product of what's going on in the outer world. Our freedoms have been taken away, and so that makes us investigate where in our own personal lives we're still depriving ourselves of freedom, where it is that we're still attached to things in our personal lives that are actually restricting our energy flow, that are prohibiting us from moving into that higher and freer version of who we are. So when the world closes in on you and freedoms are being taken away, it directly targets where you've been enslaving yourself in your own personal life. Have you been too rigid? Have you not been loose enough? Have you been too much of a perfectionist? And so on and so on. And so I think that right now we're being faced with all the emotions and the traumas that we've been suppressing in our body for a long time. I call that holding them hostage. I mean, even for me, you guys know my story. I recently stopped going to the gym altogether, and it wasn't up to me. It was a choice that was made through me. I was cooperative in the sense that I listened because I didn't have a choice to listen. It was a divine intervention from God, from the universe. And I'm not an addictive person, but I had an attachment to the gym, and I never shared this vulnerable side of me with you guys. But when I was sent into psych wards in my early 20s, and then I got out of the psych ward, I felt betrayed by everyone in my life for having been thrown into a psych ward. I felt betrayed by the world. And so effectively, I felt like the whole world betrayed me and the universe wasn't on my side. At the time, I was not spiritually oriented, so I didn't have an awakening. But I will say that my whole life, I've been very aware, I've been very astute, very much of an observer, even though I didn't know that I was spiritual at the time. But I've always been aware of my unchanging awareness, this awareness that never changes, that is almost hanging out in the background, observing what's going on in life. That's always there for all of us. It's not something that's special. It's the part of us, you could say, that stays behind uh, and observes the game that we're in as the characters in the game, and that can observe it all and guide it. You can guide yourself as the character in the game, even though you're not in the game. But in this dimension, this physical world, then we're going to be in the physical world. But then by connecting or hooking up to God, to the universe, to source, to the forces of the universe, then we're able to better be guided, to better be directed, to receive these instructions from inside to alleviate suffering and to move into joy and to harmony and to bliss. So, I didn't share this piece with you, but when I got out of the psych wards and I felt betrayed by everyone, and I was placed on very heavy medication, the kind of medication that makes you gain a lot of weight and bloat and really messes with your brain. It basically uh, unplugs certain things in your brain. And I was on them for 5 years. And the only thing that kept me afloat during those 5 years, because I was miserable, I hated having to take a pill every night or every day. I really hated it. And so the way that I balanced that, or I told myself that I would keep my body clean, was that I would go to the gym every day. So the gym was actually my saving grace when I was really down in the dumps and didn't want to be alive anymore. And so it's the only thing that kept me afloat. And I finally had a spiritual awakening at the age of 27. It's called a Kundalini awakening. It was very spontaneous, completely unexpected. And I was able to get off the meds. Now, I kept going to the gym. I never stopped going to the gym. What I didn't realize, though, is that the gym was actually a way to suppress that PTSD. It was a way to it helped me because it kept me afloat, but it also was a way to build myself positively, but I was also pushing down the deeper trauma that happened with the hospitalizations. And so I didn't connect the dots until a few days ago, but it makes sense to me now. So I developed an attachment to the gym, and then I felt like I outgrew it, but I kept going because it was just habitual for me. It was a routine. And after COVID, I talked about this in my last video. After COVID, I went back to the gym, and my guides and my higher self and God said it was over. Checkmate, you're done. And it wasn't until a few days ago I went to the mall. I was walking around, and God said to me, "Phil, you didn't need it anymore. You didn't need it." And I felt all this trauma start to move up and out of my body. So it was very profound. It was very, very profound. But I've never felt happier in my life. I've never felt freer and lighter. I feel like there was a big tumor that was removed out of me instantaneously through the grace of God, the power of God, the guides, source, universe. You could call it what you want, but by these immeasurably powerful and intense forces of the universe that want the best for me. You need to keep in mind that in life, you came to this reality with a very specific assignment, with a very specific mission that you sought to fulfill. And what I've been shown, and again, don't hang your hat on this, but what I've been shown is that everything is timed already. So you might say, "Well, I wanna explore the human experience for a while and be stubborn," or, "I wanna have things my way. I wanna play by my own rules." But you have to keep in mind that your rules as the human, or I want to say, the ego mind, your rules that you create from the ego cannot overshadow the rules or the assignment that you came here to carry out as the higher self. Your higher version of who you are that always stays behind, that is your true essence. You're just in a game right now. This is an interactive video game, and your body is temporary, and keeping up your appearances is temporary and will eventually get exhausting to you. A lot of the things that we do come from a place of inadequacy. They come from a place of unlovability. They come from a place of not embracing how we were created by God. And so it requires a lot of energy to keep up our appearances. It requires a lot of energy to keep making money all the time. It requires a lot of energy to please people in your life that you're fed up of pleasing at your own expense. It requires a lot of energy to everything that you feel doesn't bring you joy. Thank you for that super chat, by the way, Ramona. Everything that you feel doesn't bring you joy. So, in other words, if you enjoy doing yoga thoroughly, if you thoroughly enjoy doing it, then that's wonderful, as long as you don't have an attachment to it. And a lot of times we don't know we have an attachment to things until they're taken from us. And then we realize, oh, wow, I definitely overly identified with yoga or with meditation or with the gym. And now that it's being stripped away from me, I see how destabilized I am. But it is not you that is destabilized. It is the ego mind that seeks to control everything that is destabilized. I was speaking to a girl recently who said, if I stopped working out, I feel like I would lose a part of myself. And my reply to her is that that part of yourself isn't who you are. It is an identification with the ego. It is an identification with the gratification and the beauty that you've been getting from that, from lifting weights and getting admiration, or, you know, getting a pat on the back, or getting validation from other people outside of you. So we are very reliant on these things because we haven't really developed the the muscle that actually counts, which is the spiritual muscle of non-attachment. When you live in a space of non-attachment, there is no more suffering. If there's still suffering in your life, there is something that you're resisting letting go. There is something that you're still fighting. And so you might be experiencing an internal battle within yourself right now. And that internal battle is the version of you that has been receiving clues and hints along the way, knowing that you need to give something up. But because you've been refusing to give it up, then you are fighting this higher version of yourself, this freer version of yourself that only wants to deliver the goods, that only wants to move you into an exquisite life, into a freer state of being where you're no longer tethered to the material world, which is extremely and highly seductive. What we get from the material world is something that the ego will feed on. The ego gets a lot of power from uh, being beautiful, or from being powerful, or from making money, or from controlling everything and thinking that it's in control. And the ego is actually terrified of being suspended in the unknown. The ego is terrified of anything that is unpredictable, anything that is uncontrollable, anything that is unstoppable. And what is unstoppable is the light of who you are. You are light, you are spirit, and your light doesn't operate linearly. Your light operates non-linearly. The essence of who you are is multidimensional. The essence of who you are wants to shine forth and wants to explore all the amazing ingredients. It wants to taste all the amazing ingredients in the soup of God. It doesn't want to stick to broccoli. It doesn't want to stick to carrots. It doesn't want to stick to shiitake mushrooms. The truth of who you are is multidimensional in nature, and it wants to reach out through your body with a million arms and a million hands to taste this physical experience. What the ego does, it is enslaves you, it imprisons you in one ingredient, in one vegetable, in one fruit, and then um, it starts to feed off of that because it's working according to the external world and according to how the external world makes you feel inside. It is addictive. The ego is addictive. But I love what God guides told me when I went through this transformation because I have never had an addictive personality. What they said to me is that the okay, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I don't have a train of thought. What they said to me is that you're not addicted. What it is that you have a soul mission that is timed, it's scheduled, and your attachments now are getting in the way of that. So we need you to release these unhealthy attachments, which I don't want to demonize the gym. I don't want to demonize the previous version of who I was. I actually have a lot of compassion for the previous version of who I was because it did the best that it could. It did the best that it could with what it knew, and it didn't know how to change. But what they said to me, which was such a wonderful reframe, is that you're not addicted. You're just getting in the way of where we're trying to take you in life. You're getting in the way of what you architected or what you mapped out pre birth. Remember, everything is already timed. So your death is already timed. Everything is timed. And so we have a bit of wiggle room to play. We have a little wiggle room to explore different avenues in life. It might be that you want to explore your sexuality. It might be that you want to explore drinking for a while or smoking for a while. So we do have a certain amount of room that we can play within. And then there comes that moment where the universe or God or the guides, they come in very, very abruptly and very, very intensely. And it's as if they stand on your chest and you're laying on the floor and you witness a miracle before you and you are stopped in your tracks and the ego bows to this phenomenon, to this supernatural phenomenon. It bows to it and it is speechless. And it knows that it cannot fight this amount of light because it's so powerful that the ego is just awestruck by this miracle that's being performed. And so that's just what happens. So if you are being confronted with this internal battle right now, which is the version of you that you know you need to leave, and don't think of it as you're leaving it. Just think of it as this version of you is evolving as well. I liken it to one of those vitamins that you drop in the water, the effervescent um, vitamins that dissolve into the water. So it's not that you're leaving or that you're departing. It's that this older version of who you are that was restrictive and that was playing in a small sandbox, and I'll get to that in a minute. It was controlling everything all the time and getting a false sense of power and gratification and personal gain. It's evolving just like the vitamin, it's dissolving and evolving into the greater version of who you are, the all that is, into the source of light. So we do have to throw caution to the wind sometimes. We do have to take risks because that's the only way to grow. And I talked about this on Instagram this morning. I said that you cannot evolve You cannot convince yourself that you're evolving if you're always playing in the same sandbox, building castles. You can't stay in the same small sandbox and expect to grow or evolve. And the thing about the ego mind is very crafty, it is very clever, it is a shapeshifter. The ego mind will convince you that you are evolving within your small box because you can build 1,000 versions of that sandcastle. So in your mind, you convince yourself that you're growing because every castle looks different, but you haven't actually moved. And it isn't until you move out of that sandbox that you can truly come into a greater measure of who you are. You see, when we stay in the sandbox, we're blocking out the essence of who we are. We're blocking out our true nature. And again, our true nature is multidimensional. You didn't come to this planet to taste one ingredient. You didn't come to this planet to do yoga the rest of your life or to lift weights the rest of your life. Anything that you do repetitively and routinely and habitually is really just a thought that you've energized over and over and over again. It is a thought that you've powered up over and over and over again, just like Super Mario Brothers. You gave so much energy to a thought that was giving you something in return. It was giving you a payoff. It was having guys check you out. It was having women check you out. It was allowing you to feel powerful and to feel sexy. And it doesn't only have to be about beauty. It can be something like you eat 5 donuts a night. Yeah, it can also be gluttony. You eat 5 donuts a night, and that's still not your true self. It's the lower self avoiding your true self. It's the lower self clinging on to fear because it's afraid of the unknown. This can manifest in a variety of ways. It can be that you're clinging on to a relationship because you're afraid to be alone, but you already know you're not in love. The answer has already been shown to you. You already have the knowing. The clue's already been dropped, bloop, by the universe. And what we tend to do is we're very, very, very stubborn and resistant to change. But you have to keep in mind that every habit and every routine that you're in right now is not the unknown. You can take a deep breath. It is not the unknown. That's a tough pill to swallow for people. Remember that the past and the future bounce off of each other. They're always playing ping pong. And the ego uses that to prevent you from dropping into the unknown. It is in the unknown that you are completely whole, because being completely whole is being present. You are not present when you are dragging your past into the present to avoid the present, because you're really just perpetuating a story. My story was, I am strong with the gym. I am sexy with the gym. I feel like an archangel with the gym. I meditate, I work out, I'm strong physically, spiritually, mentally. I had all these stories around the gym, and little did I understand, it was really just me not being ready to release that trauma, not being ready to forgive my family, not being ready to forgive the world that seemingly turned against me. It was me holding on. And I needed that to feel adored. I needed that to feel loved. I needed that to imagine the kind of relationship I'll be in. But it was all very superficial. And keeping up appearances is exhausting. And it will deflate you, if not now, eventually, like a balloon. We think we get energy from these things, when in actuality, it's the ego that gets energy from these things. The ego gets inflated, and our spirit gets deflated. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if 70, 75-year-olds feel younger than we do because they've dropped the fight. They've dropped their sword, and now they can bring in all this amazing energy. They can breathe again. They're not fighting life. They're not in that wrestling ring with themselves anymore. So I want you to ask yourself where you're still ping-ponging between the past and the future, because anything you do daily that is a habit, meaning it's planned. You wake up, you have your coffee, you go to the gym. That is the thought. This is very important, you guys. Thank you for the donations, by the way. I really appreciate you. That is just a thought. It's a thought that you've powered up like Super Mario Brothers, and it grew. It grew and grew and grew, and then solidified as a pattern, meaning the ego hijacked it because the ego knew that it could keep you quiet and not question your own narrative because you would get so much gratification. So, in a way, we make deals with the devil all the time. And by devil, I mean that we sell our soul to the ego rather than domesticating the ego, rather than saying, sit, stay. You are not going to get your way. So the ego knew how to rope you in. And by the way, this is going to sound a little out there to people if you're new to my channel, but the ego is also associated to the astral realm. The astral realm is swarming with all kinds of different entities that take energy from humans through fear, through guilt, through blame, through shame. So these different thoughts that you have, they have a consciousness, and they're creating their reality just like you're creating your own reality. So they're not to blame, they're not to fault. Thoughts are really just creating their own reality, just like you are creating your own reality. They are building their own empire through you. You are simply the conduit, or you could say that you're the proxy that they're using for their own gain. They don't care if you end up with cancer. They don't care if you get sick. They only care about the empire that they're building. You see? They siphon your energy and build their own empire. We don't want to villainize them because if you flip that coin, they are your greatest teachers. They are showing you where you're still imprisoned. They are showing you where you've made deals with disempowerment. They are showing you where you're still not willing to free yourself yet. So we need to be locked down sometimes. We need to be in this restrictive state sometimes, just like the world that is compressing us right now, taking away our freedoms. We need to do that to then wake up and to realize I've been enslaving myself all these years. I felt obliged to go to the gym every day. I felt obliged. The other thing that I used to do is I used to have a bag of cookies a night because I knew I could get away with it, because I knew that I could work it off the next day. So we create all these different circuitries. The ego creates all these different circuitries. I want you to see this with your mind's eye. I'm telepathically sending you the vision. It will create like a circle, a circuit. Now I'm having a bag of cookies a night. I'm talking about like 100 grams of sugar a night. Yeah. And I'm having it every night. Sugar, it's okay to have a little bit of sugar every day, a trace of sugar, but to have that much sugar every single night is not healthy. Now, the good news is I wasn't judging myself when I was doing it, right? So never judge yourself if you feel like you're tied up in a drama or in your own internal trauma, or you're doing things that you don't want to be doing. Don't judge yourself. If you watch porn, watch the porn. Don't judge yourself. The judgment keeps you in that loop. The judgment keeps you in the prison. So don't judge yourself. But I want you to see how it was happening. I was having cookies every single night. That's a circuit. Then I was going to the gym every day to burn it off. Circuit, right? The ego will multiply your bondage. The enemy I don't want to say the ego is the enemy, but there are beings who are out to get you. So these beings want to keep you captive. They want to keep you in all these different routines and all these different cycles because then you think you're doing it and you're getting benefits from it. You think you're reaping benefits, but you're actually just robbing yourself of your own internal freedom. You're robbing yourself of your own internal freedom. Now, if you don't feel confident right now, or strong enough, or secure within yourself enough right now to make the change, to take the leap, again, don't judge yourself. That's the solution. You don't want to force yourself to make a change if you're not ready to make it. I wasn't ready to make it. I didn't know how to make it, but I was willing. And I kept crying out to God. I kept dialing up 911 to the universe saying, I want to be free. I just don't know how to do it. I don't want to do anything the same every day. You know, I want to be in the unknown. I want to be free. I want to free up all this space. So your willingness and your intentionality can go a very long way. It can travel to the cosmos from within yourself, and then you are asking the forces of the universe to assist you. So please don't doubt that. Don't ever doubt that. But everything happens in divine time, you see. Sometimes you can't force the change because you're too afraid to make the change. And we don't want to get lost in the external world thinking that making the change in the external world is going to fix us, because the external world is not your solution. The external world is not going to save you. You can leave a job that you're miserable in and just leave it because I said leave it, and jump and confront your fear. But if you don't know why you're making the jump, then you're going to end up in a very similar scenario. We have to remember that everything that is real is within ourselves. So we have to make little adjustments along the way. Am I not practicing gratitude enough? Am I going into my work with a shitty attitude? Am I complaining about my boss? Where is it that I'm still holding lower frequencies that I need to uproot and clear? And when you do that, you start to change the internal contents within your body. You start to liberate or release these negative frequencies that are really just stemming from the ego. Playing the victim is the ego. Complaining about your job is the ego. Complaining about your husband is the ego. Complaining about your wife is the ego. The ego wants to keep you in this linear space. It wants to keep you prisoner to the past and the future. Remember, the past and the future bounce off of each other, right? And a lot of what you're doing right now in your everyday life is just a result of past trauma. It's an old story. It's an old story. So our traumas can run so deep, they can be so deeply seated within us that we carry the past and we never actually get to be in the present. We are obscuring the present. We are covering up the present with mud because of our fears. So I want you to ask yourself, what is it that you do in your everyday life that if you had to let go of would send you into a panic? Because I promise you, if I walked into the gym right now and I picked out a few bodybuilders out of the room who are apparently very strong physically, and I took their gym away from them, they would turn into babies crying, ah, right? Because we cover up our traumas with these physical appearances and with these external activities that we think are making us more strong, that we think are making us more powerful. Oh, the audio is out. Okay. Hear me now? Okay. Some people are still hearing me. So I'm going to keep going because When I record these and I post them, the sound is on. Okay. So what I was saying is that if I walked into the gym right now and I picked out a few really strong bodybuilders who are apparently very strong and powerful, and I took the gym away from them, they would probably turn into little babies. So I'm not saying that in a condescending way. I mean that what we're doing, and I did this too. That's why I'm not judging anyone. Who am I to judge? But we cover up our traumas that we're not even aware we have them. We cover them up by doing things like that. You know, um, we cover them up. I'm sorry, some people are not hearing me, but some people are. Okay, people have restarted their app. Wonderful. So ask yourself, if something was stripped from you, what would it be that would send you into a panic? Okay? And again, if you're experiencing this internal battle, meaning you've always known who you are, like I always knew, I just want to wake up, have a nice coffee, travel, not be a slave to anything. I just wasn't able to do it yet. Right. So I accepted that and I didn't judge myself for where I was. I accepted it. Whether you're in this battle or not, there's no wrong way to go about this. Don't force yourself to leave your job prematurely. Don't force yourself to leave your relationship prematurely, because that's not coming from the true self. That's coming from you just following orders. So you're still going to be a slave. Okay. Because your life is already predestined, if you will, because everything is already scheduled, you cannot do this incorrectly. It's not possible. Because there will come a day where if you hold on to what you're afraid of, if you hold on to what you're afraid of letting go of, there's going to be these forces of the universe that intensely come in and they don't leave you a choice anymore. They're going to checkmate you. They're going to pin you down and say it's over. It's over. So you can't do this wrongly. That's what's so wonderful about this universe. The universe is so abundantly generous that it gives us a gazillion unlimited options as to how we're going to do this. But the end result will still be the same. The end result will be that you came here to know what it's like to be free in a matrix, to know what it's like, to know what it's like to experience this human life, but in heaven, in heaven, not in purgatory. The internal battle, the ping pong, the past and the future bouncing off each other is purgatory. Do an exercise every day. Whenever you talk about what you're going to do later, ask yourself, is that the unknown? Or am I avoiding my presence? Am I avoiding my wholeness? Am I not receiving that I've always been whole? Because I still catch myself doing that. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go to Starbucks at 5 p.m. It's okay. It's part of the play of life. It's part of the dance. But start to become acutely aware of where it is that you're still controlling things. And then the practice becomes surrender every thought you have, surrender every desire you have. Start to disidentify from who you think you are. Start to disidentify from who you think you are. Just like that woman who said to me, if I stopped lifting weights, I would lose a part of me. That is a lie. The ego is the greatest seducer. The physical world is inverted. It's flipped. So everything you're doing is probably coming from fear, cutting you off from your limitlessness, cutting you off from your multidimensionalness. Okay. I want you to imagine that the essence of who you are is so large, it's a giant, and it has 1,000 hands, even though it doesn't. But it filters through you or it moves through you and it wants to be in this human experience free as a bird, happy as a clam. And what we do is we don't allow that light to shine forth because we're controlling the present based on our past, which constantly causes us to talk about the future. I'm going to repeat that. We are controlling the present because we don't want to drop into the unknown, right? We're controlling the present based on a past, which is causing us to constantly think about the future. The future and the past are separate if you're operating from the ego. They keep you in a state of separation, which is why you're never super happy, which is why you're never satisfied. If you were satisfied, there would be no talk or no mention about what's happening later today. If you were 100% safe in your body, suspended in the unknown, in your wholeness, the indivisible whole, separation, indivisible whole. I am whole. I am not divided. There is no past, there is no future. These are just stories that I've been dragging with me all this time as a means to avoid or to ignore my traumas, as a means of overlooking these clues and these hints that keep getting sent my way. If you already know deep down who you are and what you want, and you're not able to receive or accept that right now, in this now, if you're not able to do that, it means that you are playing in separation. It means you don't think you're worthy of God's glory. You're not worthy of the magic that the universe is trying to supply you with. So the key is to be whole. We are whole, but we got duped. We got seduced. We got bamboozled in a very corrupt matrix. Your family was the matrix. Your family was programmed by the matrix and then transferred that programming into you. You're not breaking out of the matrix, you're breaking out of your family. The matrix is going to be perceived differently by every human being. I'm having my own distinctive experience of the matrix, and we're not going to share the same experience. You know why? Because it's not the matrix, it's your family. And we're not here to blame our family, but we are here to recognize that the family was programmed and that all the programming you internalized and you took on was then projected onto the matrix. You are experiencing the matrix differently than I am because we have different upbringings, because we were conditioned differently, because we were instilled with different beliefs. So the matrix out there is really just your family, and you haven't broken out of your family yet. So, anyways, my point is we are carrying the past into the present, convincing ourselves we are being present. Okay? We are convincing ourselves we are being present. But what is the root? What's the underbelly of what you're doing in the present? Does it have remnants of the past? Are you aware of why you're doing what you're doing? Are you doing it from a place of insecurity? Are you doing it from a place of thinking that you needed to feel energized? Thinking that you needed to feel beautiful? Thinking that you needed to be strong? Because then you're not actually being present. Being present is being in the unknown. When you're fully present, there would be no thought that you had yesterday that would pull you today. That thought is just a pattern that you've cemented. You've cemented it because it gave you something that your ego loved. Your ego chewed it up. Your ego tore it up. Your ego was like, give me more, give me more, give me more. These people think I'm sexy. Oh my God, I'm a thirst trap. I'm a thirst trap. The ego loves all of that. When you are 100% in the unknown, there would be no reason for that thought, going to the gym, going to yoga, there would be no reason for that thought to reappear right now. It's only reappearing because you fed it and it's governing you. Again, this video is just a suggestion, and we don't want to condemn anything that we're doing because remember, the outcome will always be the same. If you want to wait to make the change, what happened to me is going to happen to you, meaning I'm going to get it rough and tough. I didn't know how to change it. I was stubborn. It's fine. I didn't judge myself. And eventually God showed up. Poof. With such an intensity that I couldn't refute. With such an intensity that I couldn't look away. And I never anticipated it. So you can hold on to the fear, and there's nothing wrong with that. Please know that. Because by holding on to the fear, you're holding on to dis-ease, and eventually something really uncomfortable is going to swoop in and make you even more uncomfortable. The universe is going to hit you with a baseball bat. And at first it's going to hurt so badly, but then you're going to be like, whew, it all happened so fast. I'm free. So the good news is the universe doesn't have a shortage of options. It doesn't have a shortage of availability in terms of how you can evolve and grow. But remember, you have to step out of that sandbox to truly evolve. Truly evolve. By the way, stepping out of the sandbox can be very subtle. Stepping out of the sandbox could be that you're in the sandbox, but you're saying, God, I want to change this. God, I want to heal. God, please take this away from me. That's stepping out of the sandbox. Do you see? It doesn't have to be something drastic. It can just be intention, willingness, courage to mentally prepare yourself so that when it's time to jump, you're jumping. I prepared myself for years. I knew what was coming. I just didn't know that it would manifest the way it did. I thought healing myself from the gym would be going one day, skipping the next day, going one day, skipping the next day. I thought that was going to be my victory. And lo and behold, God said, that's not your victory. Your victory is not going anymore. For now, I don't know what the future holds. For now, I'm not allowed to go. People might say, what do you mean you're not allowed to go? You have choice. When you are blasted by the forces of the universe, you cannot explain this. It's something that has to be experienced. You don't have a choice. Okay? But it is a choice from the higher perspective, meaning that before you came into this reality, you made choices. You mapped out a very specific plan. But your ego isn't making choices anymore. My ego would have kept going. So the ego becomes choiceless. You become choiceless because the power of God intervenes. And it says it's time to bring you up to speed. It's time to bring you back on schedule. You've been exploring, nothing wrong with it, but we need to bring you to this higher mission now. Okay? So remember, try not to judge yourself. And also, I would invite you not to call it an addiction. Addiction to praise, addiction to gratification, addiction to getting compliments from everyone. Try not to call it an addiction. Instead, think of it as you're holding on to something that's preventing you from fulfilling your life path. You're holding on and you're clinging on to something that's preventing you from moving in the direction of your dreams, from moving in the direction of your destiny. But it's important to self-investigate. It's important to self-investigate. If this or that was taken away from me, how would I feel? Would I freak out? Would I panic? Because the ego, you're not the one freaking out. It's the ego that's freaking out because it's not going to get to live in your body rent free anymore. These other entities that have been munching on your energy, they're not going to have free rent anymore. And I find that the third day of starving these entities, third or fourth day is probably the roughest. The first 2 days are like, is this really happening? It's surreal. It's surreal. So you're kind of like in excitement, but fear. It's a blend of excitement and fear. The third, fourth day is when the entities start to get very loud. They start to accost you. Ooh, right? And then you start to feel that pull back to the old version of the self. And then if you hang on, you just hang on just for a day, you wake up that fourth or fifth day like, I'm fortified. I am not selling my soul anymore. I'm ready to come into my dharma and to fully, fully release my karma. And just like that, poof, the karma disappears. So again, we feel like we're in a washing machine right now, quick rinse, quick whatever. And it's pretty intense. We're being confronted with all of our shadow, with all of our traumas. And remember, the universe is going to speak to you through everything that you see right now. Spirit is going to whisper to you through every person, through everything that you look at. Make sure not to turn a blind eye to it because we're constantly getting clues. Constantly. Make sure not to ignore what you see because the universe is speaking to us very clearly and very loudly right now. Very loudly. So I think we did a lot today. You guys, thank you for being here. And if you'd like to support my work, you guys know I want to eventually only be donations. I don't want to do sessions anymore and charge people. But if you'd like to donate, I really appreciate you. But I don't expect it, okay? I don't expect it. You do what's right for you. But I appreciate the support. My website is feelgoodlife.com/donate. Feelgoodlife.com/donate. I will leave a link below, and I love you guys so much. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. And I will speak to you guys very soon. All right. Bye-bye.